Hey everyone, and welcome to Boss Talks. This is episode 54. We have a great guest today, Kerri Davis. She is out of Tennessee and with a company called Fortress. They are a prop tech company, not super old. She's saying they're still not early stage, but they're still a startup per se, but hoping to break out of that in the next year or so. And I think what they're doing is pretty cool. They are really trying to rethink the property management software game and make it so that you can kind of pick some of the things that you want to use when it comes to your accounting and things of that nature versus just using what's just there because it's the only option. So I want to learn more about that and her history in the property management space, because before getting into prop tech, she was in the property management world when it comes to running Elmington property management and being the president for that company, and then some other roles as well, obviously. But we will get into all that. But before we do, I'm Evan Happel, your host of Community Boss, and we have some great solutions when it comes to prop tech and delivering on managing the physical spaces of your community, whether it's your parking, your mapping, or amenities. We can generate some good revenue and build value for your community. So, but that's enough of that. Let's bring Kerri to the show. All right, Kerri, thanks for being here.
Hi, Evan. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So you have you've accomplished quite a few things in your career, which I think is fantastic. You also started out kind of in an interesting way anyways. Like, you spent some time over in the Middle East. Now, you were never in the military, were you? Or
Yeah, I definitely have a bit of an odd story about how I got to where I am today. I will say that I started undergrad accounting, ended up going to law school, and while I was in law school, I did join the Army. I spent
okay.
a summer in Fort
So
Sill.
law school, then
Mhm.
the military.
So I joined the military while I was in law school, and
Sure.
it's a
Yeah,
little. Yep.
that's crazy.
Yes, yes. Well, so it was an interesting progression of events, but I applied for an internship with the Office of the Staff Judge Advocate with the Army, and they don't give many of those away. So when I received that one, among others, I was really excited about it. Took it, spent a summer at Fort Sill, which is not an attractive place to be, but I absolutely loved what the Office of the Staff Judge Advocate was doing. And it was just a really cool environment. I learned so much. What they do is just really incredible and giving back to the country. I'm a little like philanthropic. And so anyway, I love the experience, contracted in, spent another year kind of focused on that and participating in the ROTC program at the local college next to my law school. And then unfortunately spent the next summer training at Fort Knox, and where I broke both my feet. So I
Oh,
wasn't actually able to like serve out my military contract, and but I did end up spending about a year overseas in Iraq, working for a Department of State contractor. So yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. So even if, because were you going to serve as a lawyer in the
Mhm.
military? So
Yeah.
even
That
in
was
that
cool.
stage, they're like, physical fitness in a sense is like always important.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, there are a few physical tests that you actually have to pass, even as an attorney, in order to be in the military. And my
Huh.
feet, the bones that broke in my foot kept re-breaking anytime I tried to
Wow.
carry too much weight. And so I wasn't able to do it. But luckily, the
Interesting.
Department of State didn't have, well, at least the Department of State contractor I worked for didn't have the exact same requirement. So
Huh.
yeah,
That's super interesting. I
yeah.
never would have thought like, oh yeah, at all stages of like being in the military, you have to be able to execute certain physical requirements and things like that. But I
Yeah.
mean, I guess if you're going to be overseas and stuff, they kind of view you all the same.
Yeah, I guess, and in all honesty, it doesn't bother me. I like a good challenge, so, it didn't really bother me that much, but, it was, and honestly, it ended up for the best, obviously, because, ending up at Elmington was, the best decisions of my life and truly incredible, and it's why I'm where I'm at today, so,
Well, that's cool.
yeah,
And we'll definitely get into more of that.
yeah,
If you're familiar with the show, I always start off with a few questions just to kind of warm things up, make it a little bit
yeah,
more, bring a little levity to the show, because I like it to be a little more fun than serious. So
yeah.
uh, the first question is, when it comes to building community, because we are community boss, what is it that you what's your approach to doing that, both professionally and personally?
Yeah, I love this question. And I am familiar with the show, and I've heard a lot of responses that I really love and admire. And I think that one word that I heard over and over again was authenticity.
Mm,
Although I think that some of the ways that your guests looked at authenticity is a little different than the way that I do, but still, I think it's so important. I don't think that everyone who works at Fortress or any company is going to be like super passionate about providing technology to apartment communities and or any other technology, right? I mean, unless you're providing technology for like St. Jude and saving lives, it you might not
yeah,
everyone might not be passionate about it.
right.
But I think if you create a culture where everyone is really passionate about coming to work every day and you do that in a really authentic way, like I think that you can create true community in that way. And one of the things that we do at Fortress, and we did the same thing in Elmington Property Management, we really lived by this creed of the only way to truly reward your overachievers is by not burdening them with underachievers. And I think that's the type of authenticity that rings really true with the team members is when you are willing to commit to an experience and then you really dive into that experience and provide that experience for your team and everyone that you interact with. I think that for me builds community. And I think I do that in my personal life too. I will say that there are two words that you can almost always use to describe me, which is that I'm authentic and direct. And that I'm if you're collaborating in that way, I think you can build community really, really well. So
Yeah. And you're gonna also not waste time.
yeah. Yes.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. Part of that whole direct thing that I've got going on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, let's just hear it, because I don't need to be like, pretend like I'm doing well,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
then eventually it's like, actually you're not. You're
Yeah. Yes. Yes. And I'm a, I love like critical conversations and even uncomfortable conversations because I always think that they produce really unique and strong results. So that I don't know. I encourage my team all the time. Like we're all a little bit different. We have a lot of diversity on our team. And the more we use our voices and the more that we disagree with each other, the more opportunity there is to create something really special. So I think it's just about like leaning into who you are as a company, as a human. And if you're authentically yourself, that you tend to surround yourself with people who appreciate, respect, love that. And that for me is building community.
Yeah. Yeah. And as long as people understand how to do it in a respectful way, right? Like,
Yeah.
instead of being a jerk.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's
Yeah.
totally a difference. Like, yeah.
It's so true. And it is surreal how many people tell me that it takes a while at Fortress to become comfortable doing those things because it's never been safe before. And
Mm,
you're so right. I hear that all the time. And it's something that we actually need to improve upon ourselves is figuring out how to make it safer for our team members to do that sooner rather than them having to like learn us and eventually like truly trust us because they've been traumatized. But
yeah.
yeah, you're spot on.
Yeah. Being honest and then getting like in trouble.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, okay, well, I won't do that again. So
Yeah. Yeah, it
yeah,
happens way too often for sure.
yeah, yep, it does. Okay, well, thank you for answering.
Yeah.
And when it comes to hospitality and having someone over for dinner,
Yes.
uh, how do you speak that? What do you do? What's your go-to dish or way of going about that?
Well, I actually do like to cook, but my go-to dish whenever we have family or friends or any guests over to our house um, is a little bit of a cop out, but it's because it's so damn delicious. Sorry, but it truly is. My husband grills the best salmon fillet you will ever have. Like I will never eat salmon out. So it is our standard is salmon and grilled asparagus and some form of a carb because I have to have one. But that would be our standard, and I would say it's a little bit of a cop out on my part, but it's also really good.
That's not a cop out. How many people actually eat salmon on a regular basis? I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
over here in Seattle, it might be a little different,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think salmon could kind of be special for some people, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's true. We've had children over to the house who have asked us what it was. And then of course, when they ate it, they loved it. So because we have, I have a 12-year-old and a 2-year-old, so we'll have their friends over and they don't even know what it is, but they love it. So, but Evan, if you're ever in Nashville, I challenge you. I know you might eat salmon quite a bit in Seattle.
I am in Seattle. I did have
challenge
salmon 2 nights ago, but
you. You'll have to try ours.
but I mean, if you can cook a good salmon, then you can cook a good salmon. It doesn't
Yeah.
really matter. Even if you are landlocked and in Nashville. Like,
Fair point.
that doesn't matter. It's okay. You can still cook it. This is not.
Yeah.
It may just not be the freshest salmon, like
Fair.
straight off the boat or whatever.
Fair.
But that's okay because we don't probably eat the fresh salmon. We probably still get it from Costco as a frozen fillet. So it is what it is. But thanks for answering. And then finally, when it comes to your caffeinated beverage, if you go there, I've been shifting to caffeinated because there's so many people that don't drink coffee.
Yeah.
But if it's coffee, that's fine. But what's your go-to? What's your treat yourself drink?
I couldn't be more of a purist, and maybe even more boring, but definitely 3 cups in the morning a day, and
wow.
it is hot and dark and black. That's
Nice.
it. Yep.
All right. Man, we are alike. All right. Here we go.
Are you the same?
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Oh my goodness.
sometimes my wife gets creamer, so sometimes I'll splash it, but
I can't.
so often, but it's like the like almond milk kind
Okay.
that, and I do not
I'll
add a
forgive you for
lot.
that.
I kind of like splash it. It's like because I don't like it super sweet. I'm not a
Nope.
sweet person. Like to me, it's that almost like is too much. Like I'm good. That's when you get the jitters almost. I feel like the caffeine is enough. I'm good. But I do not drink 3 cups of it.
You do. I mean, it's usually from like 6 a.m. until like 10. So it's not like, it's over a period of time. It's still a lot. I know.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay. It's okay. And you're starting early,
Yeah, I do. I start very early. So
yeah. So you're just getting it going, just kicking it off.
Yep.
Maintaining energy.
I mean, it's what you have to do when you have a 2-year-old and a business and a and all the things. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. If you have young kids, I mean, thankfully I'm out of the young kid age. I've got 3 boys and my youngest is 7. So we have gotten out of they're a little bit more self-sustainable.
Yes.
Like they can get themselves food and
Yes.
all that.
Yes, that
is nice.
Super nice. Although my 2-year-old thinks he can get his own food. He likes to like go
Mm.
into the pantry and find things that he will come to us and demand that we open. He's a little aggressive,
Oh, wow.
but yeah, yes. But
That's
similar to
funny.
you, all boys, 12 and 2. So yeah.
Okay. Oh, man. You got
Yeah,
the spread there.
I do. I do.
Did you really started over?
Yeah, I do. I didn't think I was ever gonna have another one, and then the pandemic, hit, and, because I was so busy, I mean, I was working and traveling constantly, and it just didn't feel like another one was in the cards for us, and then when the pandemic hit a few months in, I went to my husband and I was like, "I think this is here for real. Like, if I'm not traveling for the next year, maybe we could do this." And he was like, "Well, I think you're a little crazy, but I'm here for your crazy. Like, nothing new. You've always been a little crazy. Like, let's do it." I was like, "All right." So we do have a
Nice.
pandemic baby.
Nice. Yeah, there's a few of
Yeah.
those. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be the new, like, baby boomer, like,
Yeah.
pandemic
Yeah.
babies. Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, thanks for answering, and
Yeah.
now I just wanna get right into it. You,
Yeah.
as you kinda started, you made your way from the military and back, spent some time Middle East kind of as a contractor, and then landed. Was your first foray into property management immediately into Elmington? Was that bam?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell that story. Like, how'd that happen?
Yeah. So I met the 4 founding partners of Elmington almost 11 years ago. And the way that I met them, it's an interesting story. So, while I was in Iraq with my husband, we actually both worked for the same Department of State contractor. And while I was there, we'd been there for about 7 months and found out that we were going to have a baby. So we all joke that we have a bunker baby and a pandemic baby. It's a very interesting situation, and we have children of opportunity. But so we found out we were expecting. So I stayed for a few more months, ended up coming home, and when I was ready to go back to work, it was kind of post 2009. The market wasn't the greatest. My husband and I had randomly bought a home in Nashville. So we didn't really know a lot of people. And I ended up going to work for a headhunting company where I spent some time sourcing controllers and CFOs and accounting managers for businesses using my accounting background. And that's actually where I met the Elmington guys. They were looking for an accounting manager to come in and help them manage the acquisition of their of multifamily assets that they were purchasing, commercial assets they were purchasing. And so I was trying to help them hire someone. And over the course of a few months, we got to know each other and ended up deciding that it was a right fit for me to join them. At the time, it was just the 4 partners, and I was essentially their first full-time employee. And that was right at 11 years ago. And that was my first jump into real estate. So, and in all honesty, it was a great experience. I mean, I learned so much about real estate and property management, and it opened my eyes to a world that a lot of people don't even really know exists. I think we all kind of take apartments and apartment units and living in apartments for granted, and don't really understand the whole world and ecosystem that goes on behind it. And so that was just a really great experience for me. And then I think moving into the next few years, I started helping out a lot on the operations side, because at the beginning I was really focused on accounting and HR contracts, and then started to really look into the operating side of the business. And it was about 8 years ago that I took over the property management company operations and started digging into how we could turn our 5,000 unit property management company into a really successful, growing, thriving business. So that's really my story of how I got into real estate.
Yeah, that's great. Well, thanks for
Yeah.
sharing that.
Yeah.
Um, I did get disconnected for a minute, so I
It's
missed
okay.
part of it. But
It's okay. I pretended like it didn't happen and just kept
I
going, and it's
appreciate
fine.
that. Fantastic. You're a trooper. Like most people stop.
I did have a moment where I probably looked a little silly, so you can watch it back later. But and then I was like, nope, it's okay. I'm just gonna carry this on. We'll see what happens.
That's great. So yeah, no, I think that's awesome how that all happened, and that I just think it's is it like you just saw that there was an opportunity and they were like, we fully trust you?
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, it's the two stories are both pretty funny. So the first one, when I actually decided to take the jump from what was at the time a Fortune 1000 company to join these four guys who were working in a really small office space, and knowing that literally my office was going to be one of their closets. Like there was literally a vacuum right here next to me for about 6 months before they were like, you know what? I think we'll figure out an office for her. And then I had to work in a construction area for another 6 months. But anyway, you know, because I was trying to help them hire someone, that's how I met them. I wasn't really sure that working with them was going to be the right jump, but there was just something about them. So those four Elmington original partners, they're just so passionate and so focused and motivated. And I didn't know exactly what they were going to end up doing, but I knew it was going to be super successful. And I think for me, having an opportunity to work alongside people who would be working just as hard as I was every day, like giving that 110%, super focused on success. I'd never had that before, where everyone I was surrounded by was giving that much to create success. And so I was super excited about it. Looking back, absolutely, hands down, one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. And then fast forward 2 years later, when Kerri Rosenblum came to me and said, hey, like this 5,000 unit property management company is like, it's really hard. Like property management is HR intensive. It is a very transient business. We're really decentralized. We are spread out throughout the Southeast, small assets. We're not doing a great job. The property management company is going to lose cash. Like what, we don't know what to do. Like, but we know you'll either take one of two steps. You'll either step into this situation and be honest enough with us to tell us that it's not a business we should continue, or you're going to be gritty enough to just fucking figure it out. Right. And luckily it was the latter. And again, one of the best decisions of my life. Although I won't say it was my decision. It was Kerri's decision. He voluntold me for it. And, but yeah, I mean, I didn't go into it thinking, oh, I'm going to be super successful in this, or this is going to lead to Wood Fortress or anything like that. I just, I'm a problem solver at heart, and I love putting in the extra time and energy to just create success, whatever that ends up looking like.
Wow. Yeah. And
Yeah.
I mean, you didn't work directly on site at any point either, right? Like, so you were going with your gut and like just observing essentially the situation and making decisions and just trying to like doing it probably without like emotion in a sense, like, okay, this is just what we need to do, like in order to get to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, I will say first and foremost, I don't know that I did all that much. I think that I was smart enough to rally the people who knew what to do, and then
Mm,
to ask them lots of questions, give them lots of support, and help them create success. And I I do think that that is something that I'm fairly decent at. I think that I can be a really incredible partner. I think I'm a decent leader. I think I'm a terrible manager actually. But I think that I'm a really good partner. So if
mm.
I can just find the right people who have that domain expertise, that I can partner with them to help create success in their specific domain, and did that heavily at Elmington Property Management, surrounding myself with truly incredible regional managers and even property managers that I would connect with on a weekly, if not daily basis, to just learn and ask questions and help them create success. So yeah.
Yeah. So at what point in all that you guys grew, you increased
We did.
pretty, I mean, rapidly, really, like the
Yeah.
number of units you guys were under your management, and but there was something about that whole process where, because you're also a accountant, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So in that whole process, you were seeing what was available as tools, and you were
Yeah.
like, I don't love it.
Yeah. That was so when I stepped into that role that Kerri kind of pushed me into, I started to really quickly evaluate how we could scale as efficiently as possible. And digging into the numbers as an accountant, I realized that property management makes a whole lot more sense at scale than it does at a smaller size. And so I did end up spending the next 5 years scaling from 5,000 units to 27,000 units. And a huge part of our ability to do that was that I made a decision pretty early on, after consulting with my partners and my team, to figure out how to fix what was a major issue for us, which was our core property management software. We were spending a lot of money. I think at the very beginning, it was close to $3 million a year, or sorry, probably at the very beginning, it's probably about $1 million a year. And then as it went on, $2, $3, $4 million a year. And
It's a lot.
it's a lot of money. And we were spending all this money on this software that didn't feel like it was bringing us together. It didn't feel like it was solving problems. It felt like it was creating them. It felt like it was creating friction for how long it took to train or to onboard a property or to get a response from support. And that we were still pulling 10 reports out of this system to then manually create an Excel report to send to owners. And we had 60 different ownership groups that we were working for. So this was being done in 60 different ways. And I can't even begin to articulate the amount of data errors that were being sent out. And so I realized that if we were going to scale, we needed a much better core solution to spend our money on, but to do it in an efficient way that was supporting us. And I didn't immediately think that I needed to build it. Please no. I did not have any experience in tech, as we've discussed. So I went out and did my due diligence, looked at all the solutions in the market, ended up rolling out 2 more of them. So we were a 7,000 unit company running 3 different core operating systems, and found the exact same struggles with all of them. Some had more struggles or different struggles than others, but at the end of the day, it was just unacceptable to me. So met with my partners, gave them a business plan, passed a hat, and we started Fortress. And so Fortress for us completely replaced the core property management softwares that we were using. And then an additional learning element of that, being an accountant, I knew that it would be exponentially better for us to not build an accounting system, but instead to integrate with one, so that we and future customers of Fortress could lever any accounting system, fantastic, amazing, large accounting ERP systems, to run all of the financials for sophisticated real estate companies within one solution. And we would just provide a real-time integration with it, as a lot of modern industries do today. So that's a part of how I was able to kind of use my experience to create the Fortress as it exists today and the value that it's bringing to that team.
Yeah. And I think it's great that as an accountant, you're like, no, there's companies that do that really good.
Yeah.
Like a really good job. Why would we build it? They've already tried building it. All these property management softwares have tried building it. I'm using all those. I don't like those. Like, that seems like a lot of work.
Yeah.
And wait, there's these really big companies that's all they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they could probably handle it.
Yeah. I mean, it really blows my mind that in the property management world that we have so many of these all-in-one solutions where they're trying to do literally everything instead of just focusing on doing one thing really, really well. And I truly believe that if you are building a, one size fits all or all in one, that it usually means that it doesn't really fit anybody. So I think that the fact that every time we sell Fortress, the Fortress team, sells something else. We sell TransUnion alongside of us. We sell Nexus alongside of us. We sell Sage Intact. Like we don't ever just sell Fortress because we don't believe that there's any way that we could ever be every answer to your tech stack needs, and especially for sophisticated real estate companies. So I just think that says a lot about who we are and how we approach our relationships with our customers, although we prefer to call them partners.
Yeah. Well, hopefully someday we're in that vein of
yes,
communication partner.
Yes. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. No, because I totally agree with that thinking. Because right now it's so complicated. Not only is the data dirty, as you probably know. Well, you've already said it. And integrating is so complicated and expensive, and just it's a barrier to innovation.
Yeah.
And like, if we want things to actually get better, like, and have people that are up and coming and creating something new and fresh and better, like, part of that can't be you have to raise like a separate $1 million to integrate with a bunch of property management company or softwares.
Yeah. You don't just have to raise $1 million. You have to also go hire developers and engineers who are slight masochists who like want to actually do that, because integrating with those solutions is torture. And we're taking the exact opposite approach. So Fortress loves finding the really new, innovative startup solutions on the market and taking those to our customers. Literally, this is what we do. We identify new up and comers. There's a really awesome company called PropUp that is focused on providing transparency into exactly where every dollar of vacancy loss is coming from, and then helping you reduce that cost through a really incredible management process. And it is just a phenomenal piece of tech that we have gone to Fortress's customers and said, hey, like, what do you think about this? Is this something that you would want us to integrate with? Is it something you would use? Like, what would you pay for it? How do you define value around this? What would you define as success in implementing this solution? And that is something that we're super passionate about continuing to do. I would say that multifamily assets that are 10 plus units in an asset, they need a core software. You have to have one. Maybe you don't have to have all these ancillary solutions, but you have to have a core solution. And so if we're the have to have, and we have the opportunity to present all of these like nice to haves that create so much efficiency and can really help assets and help property management companies become more successful. I mean, I personally feel like that is a badge of honor that we should wear, and we should really lean into it. So we do that, and we absolutely love it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, not to then have the mindset of, because the mindset could be, eventually I'm going to buy up these solutions, which may or may not be good, because then you become just like every other situation and then that could actually curtail like continued innovation, because now the big company is just looking for something that is good enough. They're not like dumping money into each individual thing to make all of them really, really good. Like, it's, you got to pick and choose what you're going to add to it, I think, because like just adding everything as part of your company versus maybe just integrating and making that more simple.
Yeah, I mean, we've all seen M&A go wrong, but we've also seen it go really well. And I think that it depends on why you're acquiring a company. If you're
Yeah.
acquiring them to squash innovation, well,
Mhm.
that's really freaking shitty. But like if you're acquiring them because if you didn't, then they were actually going to have to dissolve, then that's a whole nother conversation. And I think that it is really about ensuring that you're not fracturing your focus so much that you can't be successful on your true mission, on whatever your true north is. But at the same time, if it is complementary and it's helpful and it's an awesome opportunity for both companies, then I think it's great. I think unfortunately
Yeah,
in prop tech,
that's
we've
true.
seen a lot of situations where it's been terrible. So we tend to look at it in a really negative light. But I don't
Sure.
think it has to be.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think it just depends on who's the buyer.
That's
Yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah,
think intention is a huge part of it. Like why,
yeah.
So, but yeah, a lot of that does tie back
Because
to
what you're
who they
saying
are.
is, I even talked to somebody that was purchased by one of the big guys, and they basically just dissolved the company. It wasn't so that they could
Yeah.
use the tech.
Yep.
It was just like they viewed them as a competitor and kind of this
Yep.
annoying gnat. Like, let's just get rid of them.
Yeah. It's sad. Yeah. I mean, but it happens.
Yeah. So I guess, maybe they didn't care so much because they made money, but
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, it's like it's sad because yeah, it's like, well, was there something valuable there? And now that technology is just gone. So
Yeah.
yeah. So but there was a question actually,
Oh.
kind of clarification. I don't know if you're seeing, if you look at your sidebar
Oh,
comments,
yes. I can
you
see that now.
can
Yeah.
yeah. So Joseph, he had a question kind of more around your pocket product package and
Mm.
whether or not the partner cost is kind of rolled into it, or if that's kind of an additional separate purchase in most cases.
Well, thank you for the question. I obviously, that's not why I'm here, but I don't mind promoting. Yeah, so it's so funny. I actually saw my team sent me a LinkedIn post that went out today about how more core solutions are announcing charging integration fees. To which my marketing team wanted to respond with a campaign that literally we've been working on for the past week, which is the fact that Fortress has a very intense stance on fees, and we say that we have no bullshit fees. So the price that you will
Cut
pay
and
with
dry.
yeah, it really is. Like I told you, authentic and direct. That's what you're gonna get. But I I'm super passionate about the fact that you should never have to do a 30 to 90 day discovery period to figure out what your true prop tech costs are, or at least your core costs are. And so we charge a flat per unit per month fee, and it includes every single partner that we co-sell with today. It includes all of those costs. And for anyone who isn't currently a part of that, we are working to strike reseller agreements with them. We don't mark it up; we just include it in our cost to
Hmm.
create ease and transparency, and just that no bullshit fee philosophy for all of our clients. So yeah.
Is it kind of an a la carte though? Just in case some people are like, I don't really need that particular software,
Yeah.
or is it just automatic? Like you get all this.
Yeah, it's a great question. So we are also incredibly flexible. We try to bring the solution to the table, and we say, like, after all of the conversations we've had, we know that you will or won't use this and this and this, and based on that, here's the price. And if our, customers come back and they say, well, that's a little bit higher than I wanted. Can we talk about it? Our first step isn't to start chopping things out of it. Actually, our first step is to say why. Is
Mm.
that too much? And how can maybe we can throw in a first year discount. Maybe we can talk about rebates. We can figure something out. But at the end of the day, we heard you. as we've been talking to you over the past 2 to 3 months, this is really what you need in order to feel successful, create success, and be happy with Fortress and all of our solutions in total. So let's figure out a way to make this work. And so that's our first step. And second step, yeah, if we need to start chopping things out, we can, but not our first approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
That is different, right?
Yeah.
So cool to see that. And again, Community Boss is our name, and we'll be I'm just
Love
kidding.
it. Love it. No. Hey, I'm excited. I've already reached out to a few of Fortress's clients to start talking to them about how they're handling their parking situation. So don't worry, we're already on that track.
Oh, we do more than just parking, and we
I
generate
know.
revenue. So we'll talk.
Yes,
We won't
I
use
mean,
this time.
I need more, but I've started the conversation.
Perfect. Wonderful. Okay. We love it. Okay. So let's get into what you actually wanted to talk about. How about that?
Hey, you're not gonna hurt my feelings to talk about Fortress.
Oh, I know. I think we did a good job. I think people are getting the gist, you know.
Yeah, I
I
think
think
so.
and and honestly, I was curious, so I wanted to know. So that's why I asked questions, you know. It's my show. I do what I want.
There you go. I love it. I love it.
But what some of the things that you did want to hit on were the idea of creating a culture and an environment where
Yeah.
people can thrive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we kind of talked about it a little bit in the idea of building community, but I think there's more to it. I think you had more kind of some bullets here that were delving a little bit more into that. So, yeah, go
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. I mean, so it really the crux of my issue at Elmington Property Management and why Fortress exists is that I believe that having high performing teams and successful companies comes from creating this environment where people feel like they're capable of being successful and that they're given the tools and the support and the resources and the team to create success, however that's defined by the company. And a large part of that is the software and the tech that you're in every day. And when the tech that you're in feels like and functions like it was built in the 80s, and then you pick up your iPhone and start working in your iPhone, and then you have to go back into this software that feels like it was built in the 80s, you feel frustrated and upset and not understanding why in the world you have to combat a solution to try to do your job when there is obviously tech in the world that doesn't require that. And
Mhm.
so for me, I'm just a firm believer that the environment that you create for your teams determines your success as a company. And I think a large part of that is in the tools that you give them, and that you provide. So it's yeah, the reason I ended up at Elmington truly is that I've worked at a lot of different types of companies, and I I feel as though almost everyone listening can probably commiserate with this, that you have at least one time or another experienced working somewhere where you could look to either your left or your right and thought to yourself, just freaking fire that person because I could do their job. Just give me their salary, right? Like they come in and they give like 50% every day. Like this is ridiculous. Like why are they even sitting here? And it creates all this anxiety and frustration in you, even when you're doing a really good job. And so it was just so important to me to have that opportunity at Elmington to go into a group of founders. And that was it. It was just the 4 founders who I knew were going to be giving 110% every day. And so just knowing that the environment that you create for people, whether that is surrounding them with overachievers or surrounding them with technology that helps them become an incredible performer, it's about creating this space and this environment, and it is something I'm super passionate about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you're right. those are two things, right? The technology that makes a better environment for work,
Mm-hmm.
totally true.
Yeah.
And then, because like in your personal life, you're just using what's out in the
Yes.
world, right? And then I'm always astonished when I go into like a retail store or somewhere, and I kind of peek at their screen, and I
Yep.
see something that looks like DOS or something,
Yes.
and I'm just like, what?
Oh,
No.
yes. And then something goes wrong in those systems, and then you have to stand there and wait. But the worst part is watching the person behind the counter who, if they care, if they give a shit, then they're behind the counter and they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm trying. I'm so sorry. And you're like,
Yeah.
this is not your fault.
Yeah.
I appreciate it, but it's not your fault. But they feel miserable, right? Because they can't
Yeah.
solve the problem. And anyway, yeah, yes, it's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. There's lots of examples I could give. There's things coming to my head right now, and like I could go on a tangent about that particular thing, but yeah, it's a very true thing, and I think it does affect people's work because it's
Yeah.
like they know technology has eh, surpassed this. What I'm doing today, it has gotten better, yet we are not doing anything about it here. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So well said. Yeah.
yeah. But then the other side of it, when you're talking about working with people
Mhm.
that are sometimes feel like dead weight, let's just call it
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Like, yet whether people are afraid to fire people or whether but you know what? That creates a bad culture
Terrible.
because that means other people either are less motivated because they're like, who cares? Why?
Yeah.
Or they just feel like you obviously don't care. Like this
Yeah.
person's just still here. Like,
Yeah.
really? And then the flip of it is there's the people that don't do much, but then there's also people that are like go-getters and they might just be toxic.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so like there
Yes.
can be a
Yes.
mixture of that. It's like they might be like killing it for your company, but sometimes it's a hard decision. It's like, but do we want them here? Like,
Yeah.
are they actually good for the culture? Like, which is tough because it's like, oh, they're making us
So
money.
hard.
I mean,
Mhm. Oh my gosh, I couldn't agree more. And I'm so glad that you brought that up. And here's the deal. This is a soapbox for me, but I don't put myself on a pedestal on it. I will tell you that I still move people along in it takes me longer to do so than it should, like 100%. And I call it, I mean, it's actually one of our philosophies is moving people along, and we embrace it
mm,
openly and we like address it, we acknowledge it. And because I mean, we're not, like firing someone is such a hard
oh
it's
yeah.
such hard language. Plus, number one, they're gonna go find another job somewhere else, right? So like so you don't have to say like I'm firing them. You're just moving them along. And guess what? It'll be better for them and better for everyone else. But I love the way that you said that about like the toxic overperformers, because I always look at the impact to the whole company, not that person. So that's how
Mm,
I can experience moving someone along in a really positive light. Like other people, and again, not on a pedestal because I still take too long to do it. I still hope, I still have this,
yeah.
genuine desire to figure it out if we
Hmm.
brought someone onto the team. But um when I do let someone go and move them along, I can do it with a really great feeling, honestly, because I think about the impact I'm having to the whole company, not the
Mm,
impact to that person, right? Now I'm empathetic, and I have actually had people hug me as I've moved them along. I am still friends with almost everyone that I've moved along. For those who aren't, I apologize, but I swear I do it in a way that is hopefully really rewarding to everyone and with the best intentions for everyone. But at the
yeah.
same time, like my focus is on the entire company and how that impacts everyone. And we struggle even with bringing on potential clients to Fortress, and I meet them and I'm like, this feels like this might end up being a little toxic. And maybe they don't speak to us in the way that I would prefer, or they don't have the general attitude about being open to new technology. The whole team doesn't, or whatever it is, right? And I talk to my team about it, and I'm like, this needs to be, I know it's a sale, and a sale is a sale, especially when you're a startup. But at the same time, happiness is more important, and I'm not a success at any cost type person. So the same goes to your toxic overperformers. Like, I mean, unless you're here for a success at any cost, it's definitely not the right thing to do to keep someone like that on.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. And there's definitely companies that function in
yes,
that world.
yes,
You'll
there
find
are.
them.
Yeah, yeah. I've worked with
They,
you, Bob, so yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and they'll embrace you.
yeah,
There's a really big company here in Seattle like that.
yeah. I don't know who you're talking about, so.
I know people that have worked at that company, and they are like, they'll see people burning out,
Yeah.
and they have a burnout package. They know it's going to happen,
Oh my gosh.
and they give people money because they don't want to slow down. They make them leave before they burn out so they don't lose momentum.
That's insane.
But they're like, oh yeah, people are going to burn out. That's fine.
Well, yeah, I mean, people do burn out, and I think companies experience, times in which it just feels like everyone feels a little burnout, right? I mean, especially in startup land, or if
Oh,
you're all
sure.
of a sudden experience like a period of exponential growth, right? It happens. But it's about acknowledging it and then dealing with it in a healthy way, like figuring
Yeah.
out how to either add team members or reduce Slack channels or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like, I'm
Not creating a burnout package where
yes,
you're like,
right?
no, this is just a part of the gig. We know it's going to happen. So
It's such
I
an
was I
interesting
was
outlook.
I was floored when I heard that. I was like,
Yeah.
you're kidding me. Like, they're just like, yeah, you're slowing down. All right, see you later. Move in the new person who we can just suck all the life out of.
That's what I like, can you imagine giving so much that you're experiencing burnout, and then someone just saying, "Okay, thank you for your service. Now, here's the door."
Yeah, that's insane. I just don't understand.
Yes,
But, we all have our ways. We all have
we
our
do.
philosophies,
We do.
and that's where, there's so many options. So, that again, moving some people along,
Yeah,
they'll find where they fit better.
exactly. I'm a firm believer in that. I really am.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of truth to that. And then the other thing that you seem pretty passionate about is being able to give people opportunities, whether it's yourself or others, the opportunity to give back.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about this because it's really near and dear to my heart. As a component of building this environment for your team, I think that there is an element of this that can oftentimes be overlooked, which is the natural philanthropic desire that I think most people have. And for everyone, that might not be like commitment to service of your country, like it was for me, but I do think that everyone wants to give back and feel good about giving back, but it's not always easy, right? Finding the time and the venue and finding a way to do it in a way that's really impactful. I love that at the grocery store you can add like your change and it'll go to a food charity or those sorts of things. Like that's great, but you don't really feel committed to that cause. You're not bought in.
Yeah.
You don't see the results, right? So it's hard. And I think as companies, we should take this on as our responsibility. And again, where it is a badge of honor, we have the opportunity to give back to the communities in which we work and where we create our success. And in doing so, allowing our teams the opportunity to participate in that in a way where maybe their $5 or $10 here or there isn't, isn't a massive financial constraint for them. So they can do it. And but it also isn't kind of that, obscure off in the corner thing. They actually get to see the results of it, and it's really incredible. And we started a program at Elmington about 7 or 8 years ago. God, I can't believe how long it was. Where we started doing food drives and toy supply drives or school supply drives, excuse me. And it started with actually a drive for toys for a holiday toy fest that we threw in a housing community, a public housing community in Nashville, actually right around the corner from our corporate office. And it started with that toy drive, and then it bled over into food drives and school supply drives, and we started doing them at all of the apartment communities that we managed, and it was just such a huge hit. Our on-site teams loved it. Our corporate office loved it, and over the past few years, it's evolved into a full 501c3, and we actually provide free after-school daycare to what will be 100 children at Title I schools in Nashville, saving their communities, around $500,000 in childcare costs each year, and providing a sanctuary for these children to spend those after school hours that a lot of times they would be home alone, or providing an opportunity for the typical the she-fault parent to go out and actually obtain gainful employment rather than just, staying home with kids, because after school care is so expensive. And it's really impactful. And I'm just so proud of what we've done. And I'm a huge believer that if for no other reason, that as a company, if you take that responsibility on and find a way to give back, that it's so much bigger than just giving back to the community. You're creating an environment that your team will buy into and love and feel even more committed to your company. And then that turns into even more success. So it's something that I'm really passionate about.
No, that's awesome. And I don't know if this is a thing or not, but I'm just going to speak it. Do you feel like some people hold back on things like this, thinking, oh, this is like a fair housing problem, or like, because we're providing something for someone and not everyone, or whatever like that. So like, what's your approach with that kind of thing? Because I know it's an issue in the industry, like that kind of thing. So
yeah. So first of all, we set up a completely separate company to do it, which is the administrative costs of it are covered completely by corporate entities. So not like the properties or the property management company. And then there's a staff that's hired just to do that. So there's no like commingling of team members from the property management company, although they do have the opportunity to volunteer. But actually, the money that we're giving back and the free after school daycare and school supplies and those sorts of things, the way that we're doing it is really irrelevant to the community. So there aren't any fair housing impacts. Although I will tell you that it is something that we've had to talk about. We've had some of our affordable communities come to us and say, hey, we saw that that the nonprofit, it's a company called it's called Elmington Elevates, that the nonprofit put in this incredibly gorgeous playset, a massive playset at one of the schools where we provide the free after school daycare. And could we do that at our community? Like, could you help us figure that out at our apartment community? And we did the analysis from a fair housing standpoint. We were like, oh, I don't feel super comfortable like doing it for this affordable community because we can't do it for all of them. We did it for a school. And so that absolves us of the fair housing regulations. But so yeah, it's definitely a conversation. I hate it because I wish I could just say yes to everything. We wish we could say yes to everything, but yeah.
So your approach is almost do it for the greater community, so that it has an impact, and obviously the people that live in your communities, or Elmington's communities in this case, then are impacted because they have an opportunity to, whether that's apply for the program or use the playground or whatever it is.
I would actually say that it's just, we aren't focused on the benefit to anyone related to the apartment communities that we manage for. It's a
Yeah.
benefit that we're focusing on, number one, the community at large. Like, we don't even concern ourselves with whether or not it impacts any of our residents. We just don't. It's just the
Hmm.
communities at large that we have the luxury of operating in, the privilege to operate in, and our team, giving our teams the opportunity to give back in a bigger way and see the impact of that. And that playground that we built at that school in Nashville, we had a massive number of Elmington Property Management's managers help build that playground while they were at their annual managers conference. And so that experience was just truly incredible for them, to get to give back, to have spend a day, a team building day, building something that will be there for decades to come. So it's really impactful.
Cool. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for establishing that and having a heart to in sometimes a roundabout way, but giving the opportunity and encouraging it and being a part of the culture is important. Like, I know some companies are gun shy about like supporting specific causes
Mhm.
because now we're known as the company that supports that one thing.
Yeah.
Versus just supporting things or encouraging their employees to support everything that they're interested in supporting. Like, there's a lot of ways to go about it, right?
Yeah.
But it's great that you guys have chosen a way and are very intentional about it. That's really cool.
Yeah. Thanks. It's meaningful to us. So I appreciate you giving me the forum to share that. I really do. It's meaningful, Evan. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a show about you, not me. And so I'm always happy to give that platform and also just allow more people to learn about what's going on in this industry. Not just because we are a big country, lots of companies, lots of different things happening,
Yeah.
and there's so much to learn from one another. And unless we like get outside our local bubble, we really don't know what's happening. So
Yeah. Well, you're doing
hope,
a great job of it. I love your show. So thank you for having me here.
yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being here. Well, Kerri, that is the end of the show, and I do appreciate you being here. Appreciate everybody that added some comments and participated and watched. I hope you got something out of this, and by all means, look into the company Fortress. They're doing something a little different. Get curious. Go to their website. All the things. Connect with Kerri on LinkedIn, and I'm sure they would love to answer any questions you have. But just like Kerri jumped on Boss Talks, you too can. And she is a CEO, so she is a boss in that respect. But I don't have requirements on your title. I do want all bosses in the industry on the show. So whether you are a property manager, a leasing agent, a maintenance supervisor, a tech, a regional, whatever your title is, I'm sure there's a story to tell and something that makes you a boss at what you do. And I want to know your story, and I want others to as well. So reach out to me and we'll make it happen. This has been Boss Talks episode 54. And until next Wednesday, thanks for watching.